Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's FPV podcast. We are still continuing on with our DRL train. This week, we got one of the top racers for 2017, Gab707, will be joining us. But before we introduce him, Elvin, say hello.
Hello, everybody. Good to hope everybody's enjoying the flying season. Stay warm, stay safe, stay cool, stay hydrated. I'm cool.
Yes, it is hot down here now, too. Gab, please introduce yourself.
Hey, Wei, thanks very much for having me on again. I mean, it's like the third time already, I think, but it's always great to be back. It's always fun to chat with you guys. Even up here in Canada, I'm in Montreal, you'd think we're freezing cold as usual. It's minus 10, 20 degrees in the winter, but we're boiling hot these days. So always stay hydrated, as Elvin was saying, very important.
Yeah, definitely. There's a heat wave all the way across North America right now.
That's right.
I'm a DRL pilot. Some of my other sponsors are Ready Made RC, Strix RC, Hobbywing, Tattoo is one of my most recent sponsors. Very happy about that. True RC is a guy who makes antennas in Quebec, and Brain FPV makes flight controllers and racing, also making frames. Now we're working on something very special, but we'll talk about that later, maybe.
He's getting to all the stuff. Yeah, you always want a battery sponsor because, you go through batteries.
Yeah,
go puff some batteries. Okay, so if you do not know Gab's background story, we already did a podcast with him, so definitely check out that one. We're going to go ahead and move straight into the content. In 2016, you actually made your debut in DRL, did really well. So in 2017, how did you feel when they gave you the phone call saying they wanted you to participate?
I really didn't know what to expect. I never saw the phone call coming. I mean, although when I spoke to them later, they were telling me, "Yeah, we saw you race. Was it in Ohio?" And for them, it was a no-brainer. They had to invite me, but I had no idea. So for me, I never expected it, and it was like a huge news. Like, hey, you're going to DRL this year, and guess what? It's not a system where you have to earn your way every time. It's a full season, so you get to go to 4 races, and it's a whole thing, and you go, it's the same pilots again. Oh man, it's just so good. This is it's a dream come true for any pilot. I think I don't think many of them. I mean, drone racing is growing, and it's as things go along, I'm sure there's going to be competing leagues. There's going to be bigger shows. There's going to be big arenas full of people wanting to see this, and it's going to maybe not become such a big thing, but right now, it's for me the most professional and the biggest league there is. So it's definitely an honor to be a part of it.
Definitely pretty cool. So let's go ahead and get into their levels, which is how they, rate their events. So level 1, Miami. So we watched that, and obviously, for anybody who watched it, you crushed that level. You intimidated all of the pilots there. I mean, there were so many skits of you saying boots. How do we beat Gab? How do we stop Gab? It's like you really intimidated everybody. What was going on there? When you got to that track, did you just say, man, this is going to be my race?
I don't think so. I wasn't really, I wasn't going to the race to I'm going to win this. I'm going to kick their butts and whatnot. I really came into this just thinking I'm just going to do my thing and find my vibe. Fly my rhythm, and if I get 4th or 5th, I would have been happy. Honestly, I would have been happy. The guys there are really good, and it's some of the best pilots around. So you gotta come with your A game. That's one of the things I learned. I mean, I was at the World Drone Prix. That was 2016, and that's one of those events where are for me, each big event has one thing that you learn with it. And there I learned you don't go to an event and not give it everything. We were too strategic and we went too slow, and anyway, we ended up not making it. But you don't go to an event without giving it everything, and that was my mentality going into this race. I need to give it my best, but at the same time, I don't mind if somebody else wins. So I'm just going for it and see what happens. And it happened. So
yeah.
He was already strategic even before entering the race. Now, okay, so when you actually saw the track, DRL tracks are, some of the most amazing tracks because you can't really reproduce it at the grassroots level, okay? And we just don't have the means to do that. So when you saw the magnitude of the track and where you're going to be throughout the stadiums, what were your first thoughts going through your mind?
I loved it. I really love the three-dimensional side of things. I love I love going up and down and going through all the little tunnels. And we were going through the tunnels through the parking lot and then up through the helix. The helix climb was amazing. Like you go up and you basically immelman the thing out of it. It was a palm tree. We were just looking at it. No way. What? Are you serious? And everyone's like, no, we're gonna go like we're gonna be like try to be safe. Like everyone was talking like strategies. We're gonna like curve around. And in the end, everyone was just balling it like straight up this thing upside down and let's go for it. So that was one of the cool spots. And then also like diving down into the stadium, diving up the stadium. Like one, let's say, lesser known fact is that the video was actually really horrible in some places. Like a lot of those rafters in the stadium, that's a lot of bars, that's a lot of multipathing. And no matter what you do, like even, I'm sure if you even had like HD rays, you'd have trouble up there because there's a lot of like signals that are reflecting off these bars and are hitting your receiver at the same time, and it's like your signal just degrades a lot. And we were almost blind through certain sections. You just knew, okay, I'm going there, and you just learn your path and you just go for it. I think honestly that's what threw a lot of the guys off. You'll see I'm actually really fast in the first like half of the track, and on the second half of the track they always caught up to me because I was playing it safe. I didn't really like the end of the track. The early track, I just sort of memorized where things were, and I was just going full speed through it. And then later on, there's a lot of like harder sections, and you don't want to hit stuff because it gets tighter. There's the tunnels, so I'd usually pace it up a bit, pace it easy, and they'd overtake me and like, okay, just guys go. I would clap on the way. And
so basically,
sometimes they'd go and crash, sometimes not, but. DRL is about scoring.
Yeah, you still finished first in a lot of the heat, so I mean, it's definitely a strategy that worked out for you. So, really, what you're saying is, like, you were prepared not to take first place in every heat as long as you actually finished.
I think that's my motto. That's been my motto, I think, all year long. I mean, I don't care about winning. I'm just here to give it my personal best. I'll be frustrated if I don't give everything I have. If I feel I could have flown better, then I'll be angry with myself. But if I'm just going and someone's faster than me, then honestly, then I'll applaud you. So that's my philosophy. That's been my philosophy this whole season, and it's worked out pretty well. So
yeah, definitely. No, hey, back-to-back wins, right? But we'll get into that in a little bit. Now, I can argue watching you race that you're probably one of the best when it comes to choosing lines in open space. You seem to have a very innate sense for being able to choose the fastest line. Not necessarily the shortest, but it's going to be fast because you can go from one racing line to another. Does that come very naturally to you, or you spend a lot of time planning this stuff out?
I think it's a bit of an intuition that you learn over time. I grew up racing go-karts. That's really where I learned to take racing lines. And the thing is, racing lines aren't unique. And that's one of the things you learn in go-kart racing, for example. The best line is actually, for example, if you have a hairpin turn, the best line is relatively symmetric. You sort of go to the outside of the turn, you break down before you turn, and then you make your turn, you cut the apex really tight. That's very important. And then you open the line again.
Right.
I don't think anyone in drone racing does this. Why? Because drones are excessively hard to fly. They're bloody hard. They are bloody hard to fly around.
Wait, some of the guys are starting to get the ideas. Yeah. There's some guys. You got to admit, there's some guys that are starting to get it. Like we were talking to a couple of guys recently, and I'm starting to hear stuff that you learned when you were racing go-karts, when they were teaching you about the lines, and they were teaching you the fundamentals about braking and undercutting a line and back clearing it out and overcutting and all of those things.
All these details. That's the thing.
Right. And
there's just not one way. There's several ways to do it.
Right. And there is some guys starting to talk in that fashion. They're starting to talk about how they look for the line, and that's what they're looking. And Gil was here. We talked to Gil, and Gil was one of those guys. He was talking about the fundamentals of racing, and he was talking about those things. And it's good to see that those guys are starting to develop.
we actually
Unfortunately,
spoke
you're
about this a
still so
lot.
far ahead of them.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
with that training,
But the thing is, we say, you know, racing lines are obviously better. I mean, if you think about it for long enough, you realize this. But the problem is, drone racing is like general drone racing. I'll say general with the, you know, opposed to DRL, because DRL has a spec class, right? And the drones are, let's say, a bit slower than what usually you'd have if you built an all-out racer, like lightweight and whatnot. And the problem is those all-out lightweight racers, they go so fast that you're usually not using 100% of the power. You're probably using 40% of the power at most during a race.
True.
And so you can actually, with those racers, which I hate, honestly, I hate it, it's that you could totally miss your line. You just slam the throttle and you're back into it. And you do not lose time. So it doesn't really matter how well you take your line. So this is why I think a lot of the racers haven't really spent the time to learn what a racing line is. To me, even with the ultra-light racers, I still fly the line. But I just fly, let's say, slower. I don't slam the gas. I just, you know, fly it easy and just fly the line. If I feel comfortable, I'll fly the line faster. And I think on the long run, that's going to be the better approach. But obviously, if you're just aggressive and you're just going for it, you can actually be pretty fast by just slamming the gas in every which way. But DRL, on the other hand, honestly, that's what I'm saying. Interesting that Gil was talking about that, because we had a few discussions with the guys, and not many of them were really. I don't think many of them got the idea of the lines and how to work through them. And we had quite a few discussions on how to take, you know, different corners, and we actually had the thought process of it, because on a regular track, again, you know, with opposed to DRL, it's not as it's a gate in an open field, right? And there's so many ways you can go through there, and it's not as risky, it's not as deterministic like where you have to fly. Whereas when you're in a tight tunnel and you have to go through this rafter, through this thing, your line becomes much more critical. And especially with the DRL drones, you got to really use the inertia with you. You always have to keep the momentum, because you can't gain it that quickly either. So you have to just keep the inertia with you.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that I hope, you know, future racing drones that DRL uses don't lose, and that's the mass of the DRL racing drone, because I truly think that, you know, it weighing 1 kilograms or more actually is beneficial to the racing, because it forces pilots to learn about lines and to actually be more recognizing of what they need to do to make that machine go fast. Because I like to borrow what Gil says, because it's so true, is that you have to fly those lines, because that's when the Racer 3 will reward you. Otherwise, you just can't fly fast. And it's one of those things that in grassroots racing, you don't need to do that, because things are so ridiculous fast that even if you completely miss out, you can still punch in and still catch up. It's a little bit ridiculous, but I don't think grassroots
laps and you're back in the lap, you know.
Yeah. So I think really, in field racing, you're at the limit of your abilities always. And on the DRL tracks, I mean, you're still at the limit of your abilities, but you're also at the limit of what the machine can do. And you need to treat it well, and you need to fly the lines clean if you want to get the maximum out of the machine. Like on some of the tracks, really, it's not that you are like at the limit of your reflexes and how quickly you can think and do the movements. It's really, it's a cruising line. There's just one way to do it better than the other, and you will win 1 second at the end. And it's not. I didn't twitch like crazy, whatever. It's a smooth line. It's a smooth line. You just have to do it correctly.
Now, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about this. See, look, we're already off topic. We're never going to talk about the levels, but it's still fun.
I swear to God.
Now, like in all racing, right? There is the best line, but there's also people around you. So sometimes you can't fly the best line. So what do you do when you can't fly the best line because there's somebody in front of you that's just all over the place?
You run them up.
I had a hard time with that. And the guys would tell me, we saw, like I think Duncan, he was telling me, I watched you. Every time someone would overtake you, you just stay behind. Because I'm not used to flying with that many people. In DRL, there's 5 other guys, and they're all like 1 meter away from you. This is crazy. Like, I'm not used to practicing like that. I'm usually by myself. And there's one guy over, like I overtake him, and that's it. I'm gone. I don't really have people to fly close proximity racing with. So when there's someone in front of me, I'm usually like, whoa, I'm just staying behind. But you see it like later on, I think in the races, like some of the racers really plan their lines differently. Like, oh, there was this guy here, right? You don't see him, but he's there. He's somewhere there on the right up there. So you'll take the gate lower. And some of the racers don't do it. Like you'll see, oh, there's a guy in front of me. He's in the gate. I'm going faster than him. Yes, I am still going faster than him. And I just crashed into him. Right. And then they're saying, oh, we got mid-aired. Like, he just flew straight into him. What do you mean you got mid-aired?
I try to be nice and I try not to say stuff like that.
It happens, though. It happens.
It does happen.
I mean, there's no brakes on a drone, right?
Right.
And people on TV don't realize this, but it's hard. It's bloody hard.
It is bloody hard. And one of the things, what I do see, though, is that some of the pilots are maturing, and you can actually see them adjust their lines so that they know this pilot likes to take this escape up on the upper right-hand side. So they'll adjust their lines coming in to take it on the lower left and pass him. Unfortunately, sometimes it just doesn't happen because the drone, reacted a little bit differently and they still collide. But at least you're starting to see some of that, at least in some of the later races. But
I seen Gab box a dude out once. I mean, I was like, that was dirty. He knew he did that shit right there. He knew it.
Hey, that's racing, man. That's racing.
Did you racing, I was just watching the rerun from a couple of days ago, in Munich, just the first the elimination race. And Jet on the last race, we take a corner like that, and Jet comes from behind, slams into me, does a full roll, and then just keeps going. And I just went pow, pow, straight into the wall, and I was gone.
Right.
And this guy just keeps going. Anyway.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Jet's like that because it's like sometimes he recovers from the craziest things, and I just sit there and I shake my head. It's like, how did he recover? It can't be luck because I've seen that too many times for it to say that's luck.
I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, this is one of the learning processes for me at the moment. Like, how do you recover from getting slammed into?
Yeah, that's tough. But okay, let's get back to level 1. We've been on like a 20-minute tangent, although it was a very fun tangent.
Yeah.
Now, towards the end, you were obviously crushing it for the first day, and then on the second day when you were racing, you gained a massive points lead, which was great. But I also noticed that people were really starting to catch up with you, and people were starting to catch on that you were being more cautious at the back end, mostly. And now we know why, because of the video issues. Towards the end, it looked like you had to really push it to ensure that you got the win. So, what was the strategy towards the end of the heats? It seemed like you had to change it up a little bit.
Yeah, I had to change it up. I mean, I found my pace early on. I think on the first day, it was something close to 59 seconds, if I recall. And that's pretty much where I started off again, like 59s, 58s in the first few heats. And I thought I was happy there. And suddenly these guys out of nowhere, there's the top 3, and they're all at like 56 or something. And I'm ending up 4th. And then we do it again, and then I'm ending up like 3rd. And I don't think I flew slow there. And these guys are still faster. So I just had to, turn it up a notch and just earn it, because it's actually really hard, because you think you've got the lead, and they're just creeping up on you. They're creeping, and every time it seemed like they're going faster, because the guys were like, you could see it on their face. They were really nervous, and they were pushing each other. And I mean, my strategy only really works if you don't crash. If you start crashing out, you start having to be aggressive, and you're in their game, which I don't want to do. My game is just being consistent. It doesn't matter if I'm 1st, 2nd, 3rd, as long as the points keep coming in. So the early lead allowed me to have a bit of, just back off and just think about things a bit, and allowed me to just see them go by and see, okay, they're a bit faster, but I just had to bring it up a notch at the end. There's just no other way.
Yeah. So did you go out to your comfort zone in order to win that race?
I had to at the end just a bit. I think it was the last heat. I can't remember how it started, but I think I was relatively well placed, and I knew I had to be at least 2nd. Like if I was 2nd, I was for sure winning. But then obviously it depends, who's actually 1st in front of you. And I didn't know who was in front of me, but I knew someone overtook me, and then another guy overtook me, and then another guy overtook me. I'm like, oh no, this is not going my way. I need to do something. And I think it was Willie, like on the last straight through the tunnel there. No one ever overtakes there. And there through the last section, I just had to hammer it. I saw him just take me just before. I thought, oh no, this is not happening, not today. Slammed the throttle and just went out, just way out of the comfort zone. Even though I actually won because it was the right guy who was first. I don't exactly remember who it was, but I was actually still winning. I spoke to was it Terry Beast Mode later, and he was telling me, "Dude, you were winning. Why did you risk everything?" I told him, "I didn't know. I just knew I had to be like second. I saw there's like too many people in front of me. I had to catch him." So I gave everything there, but it worked. So good stuff. But it could have gone the other way too. I could have lost everything. But there's a great saying. I can't remember which author it is, but if you're not willing to lose, you're never going to win.
Right.
So you got to put it on the line if you want to win. That's
definitely. Well, congrats on the first win, and let's go ahead and go on to level 2 because you were the winner of that one. So we went from big and sweepy, wide open to a little bit. There were areas where it was much more constricted, the corridors, but in the big rooms, you had a little wide open space, and then like there was that really small door that you had to get through from the upper tier that like people crashed at all the time and all that stuff. What did you think of the second event?
The second event was actually a bit more sketchy for us. I mean, a little known fact is actually the track was actually much longer in the beginning, and they had to scrap a whole part of the track because the video was just unflyable. And again, I mean, like major improvements were done to the video system on level 3, and then since level 3, honestly, we've had like immaculate video every time. But level 1s and 2, we were a bit rough on the video. So it was again one of those levels where we had to be a bit cautious and not push it too hard, otherwise we'd risk an interference randomly at the wrong moment, and we'd take ourselves out. So I didn't really like the track. I didn't feel very fast on most of the sections, but I played again the consistency card. It's not necessarily being the fastest. Like throughout like semifinals, where I was racing with a noob, with Zach Thayer, and we were both like really close. He was winning, I was winning, he was winning, I was winning. So we started just pushing each other and finding the pace and going relatively fast. But like in the finals, like everything changes again. You turn up and the mind state is not the same. The pressure is not the same. And like I think he won the first race, and then he smacked himself out every time. He crashed every single time. So just keep it going. Like if you don't feel you can go faster, don't go faster.
That's very easy to say. That is almost impossible for a lot of pilots to do. Okay, I'm just saying. I've seen a lot of crashes where you see the pilot, you're like, dude, you totally went too fast, and you know it. You just don't want to admit it to yourself.
Yeah,
but
a lot of the times you see the pilot feeds, and you see the guys like all over the show, like whoa, I almost missed this game. Oh, I almost dodged death this time. Oh, I almost killed somebody on this one, and you just keep slamming it. Let's just breathe easy. Do a loop around, do 2 loops around, maybe even 3. Just calm it down, and then you go again.
See, look, he's such a chill guy. He's got ice in his veins. Okay, so one of the things I want to talk about was at level 1, you definitely saw that the opening start was really important to your strategy. And level 2, you continued that. Is that something that you practice? Because like there's only a few pilots that consistently can get out into the open and really open it up right at the very beginning. I've talked to a few pilots that says, yeah, I need to get better at that. So how do you get so good at that?
I'm going to give you a bad answer here.
Okay.
I've never actually practiced it.
Raw talent, folks. That's what he just said. I'm just beast mode. No, not that beast
Honestly,
mode.
I don't know. I never practice starts, and I usually feel like I'm bad off the podiums when I practice. Like I'm usually really bad at when I try to practice this, because I do try to practice, but not very long, because usually I crash myself out very quickly. If I get myself too excited for the start, I just crash like 10 meters after. I honestly don't know what the key is. I think it's just the preloading. There's this technique where you sort of on the podium, you start gassing it a little bit and pitching the quad forward, and you're just sort of rubbing on the ground, just hoping it doesn't slip and go up on you. But you do that, and not too much, because otherwise you hit the props and you spin over. You do this just the right amount, and then when the tone starts, the countdown comes. You got to, just before the tone, you have to start just gas it just slightly before the tone, because the quad doesn't instantaneously like take off. You want it so that as the beep goes, you're already you're going off the platform. So it's one of those timing things. I don't know, maybe, I used to do music. Maybe like I used to play guitar. I still do, but timing is very, I used to play like heavy metal, fast metal. Timing was very important, and so maybe that helped. Honestly, I don't know.
What's funny is says he doesn't know, but he gave me like a 2-minute detailed answer on how he does it. Okay, so that did not match up at all, Gab. But
well, I don't understand how a lot of the other pilots do it, but there's some who don't seem to be able to do it either. I see some of the pilots do like a blazing start, but they start a fraction of a second too late. Like you start 3, 2, 1, beep. Pow! And then you see, couldn't you have done this on the beep? You just killed them. But
hey, I guess that's what I wondered, because like there's a few guys that are two guys that are really good at, you and McStrawley. Except McStrawley gets a little bit overzealous, and he usually runs himself into a wall because he doesn't slow down after the fast start. Unfortunately,
he gets very excited.
Yes,
he's really aggressive. Like, he's one of those pilots. If he gets it right, you will not get him. Like, I don't know if you saw it in New Orleans in level 3. He, like, the last heat of the finals, he was gone. Yeah. He beat the course record by like 2 seconds. We've been racing like at this pace, and he just obliterated everybody completely. But the rest of he did not manage to finish like enough races. He finished last, even though he did the course record. So it's one of those personalities. Like, once he gets his emotions under control, that guy's gonna smoke us. Like, I don't know what we're gonna do once he gets his thing together. But
doesn't happen. But
you don't think so?
No, well, I don't know. I mean, like, it's anybody's race, because like on any given day, somebody could have a great day and somebody could have a bad day.
Well, that's true.
But that's not also true, because like I've seen Gab, like in every one of your races that you were in, you were always in the upper tier. So there's something to that as well. And then like other people are able to hang around long enough to where they always finish up in the top tier. So there's something there. It's just, it's hard to pinpoint, say this is how you do it. It's like,
but it's hard. Like, everybody has their bad days, and like, for example, Munich was one of those things. I was not feeling good. Honestly, I was not. I think they don't show the practice, fortunately, but my practice didn't go well. I think I crashed myself out like by myself, 3 times. And the times I was up is like Nurk ran into me like twice, and I barely got any practice because I just kept crashing myself out, and things were not happening for me. And it's one of those things where you just really need to calm yourself down and get your center of attention where it needs to be. To stop thinking about different things. I don't know. For me, it's maybe something close to meditation. You really have to get in your zone, and it's hard to do just off this. Like, if it's not happening today, it's not happening. But you got to deal with what your ability is giving you. If that means going slower, you should go slower. If you can't do it, don't do it. I mean,
do you meditate?
I sort of meditate. I've never actually learned it. I just have a few things I do, just slow breathing, just to get my nerves down, and focus on where I am, what I'm doing, and it generally works. But I've never. I don't know if there's probably like ways to meditate, like classes and stuff you can do. I've never done any of that.
It works.
During the preheats, when we see you sitting up there, it looks like you're meditating. So
I close my eyes. I try to shut everything off. That's one of the things now.
Yeah, but getting back to level 2, I think going in, one of the things that Zach Thayer, and this is probably one of the reasons why he crashed himself out, was I think one of his goals was to beat you. Because like he definitely had his sights set on you. He might have got a little bit overzealous in that department. But once you started wrapping up, that you knew you had to win, one of the things that happened was that you crashed out on the last heat because you heard somebody turn off. Like, what happened there? Because that is a kind of funny story.
Yeah, I mean, I knew I had won. I knew I had to beat... Who was it? I think it was Zach. I knew Zach was like sitting right next to me, and I heard him, he's going, the switches on the Tyrannus, you hear the click, 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 click. Oh, he's trying to rearm the drone. Now he's down. So
Yeah.
I knew I had won, and then this thing just kept on turning in my head, and I didn't know what to do anymore. I was like thinking, oh wait, I won. Oh, I should keep flying. Oh wait, but I won. I don't need to fly anymore, but I won. So, one of those like lack of concentration. I just land myself right into the wall like a champ. It was
See, when you did that on TV, we didn't know you won, right? You knew
Right.
you won. No, none of the audience knew you won. We're like,
Yeah.
what happened? Why did he just slam himself into the wall? It was just weird when we watched that. I was like, okay, did Gab just made a critical mistake? It's just kind of funny to watch.
And you don't actually see it also there's no camera angle there because they didn't expect people to crash there, right?
Right.
So they don't actually have a camera angle on it.
It says Gab's down. We're like, huh? What happened? It's like,
Yeah, he was first. The camera turns, and oh, he's not there anymore. Oh. Anyway, it was just one of those brain fart moments. Like,
hey, no problem. So, like, I mean, you won level 2. So, what was it like to win back to back? Was it like your crowning achievement up to that point in drone racing?
it was definitely a great experience, but I mean, back to back, I don't think it's
Never
just
happened?
that my sort of philosophy and my approach to these races was working out, and it felt great that my thinking that I put towards the races worked, and that it's working out. But it's there again. I mean, those two races to me were really about consistency. Both tracks had their difficulties, and you just had to pace yourself through them, and that's one of the things I think I do relatively well at. And like as the season goes along, some of the tracks have different styles, and that's where different parts of your, let's say, talent or abilities start to show. So
Okay, so let's move on to Mardi Gras, which is level 3 before you ended up in the playoffs. That was
hated
when,
that one.
yeah, I think everybody hated that one because like that one was hard to watch. Everybody crashed out. I mean, what was going on there?
It was actually a very easy track. Like there was no crazy ups and downs and crazy dives and Immelmans, and there's none of that fancy stuff. It was just plain old turn racing. You're flying through this hangar, and there's stuff everywhere. There's like garage thingies, and there's like tractors, and there's floats, and there's invisible sometimes. So you just have to fly around this stuff, and you can go really fast because it's relatively straight in the line, and it's always an open sweeping turn. So it was easy to fly it slow, but very hard to fly it very fast. So I mean, I didn't like it too much because of that. It's one of those things where you have to be like 100% full concentration, and if you're not fully concentrated on that particular heat, you're taking yourself out.
So was it just the fact that there was just no room for error? Is like if you're just a little bit off your line, something's just going to come and snag you?
Absolutely. That. So yeah, if you like, I think it was one of the last heats. I mean, I'm jumping to the end results, but on the very last heat of the final, I could have tied Jet for his first place, and I was in the position to do so. Jet just crashed out, and I was getting like second place behind McStrolly, who was just smoking everybody. I knew like with second place, I was tying him for the points, and I just flew straight into a float. It was not one of those moments like Atlanta, like we just discussed, but it was one of those things where like there's a line on the floor, and I was slightly off the line of my normal line. And I thought I was following the lines because the lights point straight, and I was within the lights. And out of nowhere, comes this thing which I had never noticed because it's in the dark, and I just slammed straight into it. And it's like, oh. So it's very unforgiving. Like if you forget something, if you forget one little detail or something, you take yourself out. And yeah, it's also a very fast track because it's open, big sweeping turns, fast lines. So the pack is very close. You saw there was a lot of mid-air collisions, and those are, I mean, they're just hard to predict. There's nothing you can do about it. If someone comes up from behind you, from the side, you can't see them, and you clip each other, you take yourself out. There was definitely a lot of that because the pack was relatively close. So it's the track design that makes that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Mardi Gras World was definitely the one that I least liked. I don't know about you, Elvin, but I like watching that, watching pilots randomly crash out wasn't very entertaining because it's not like, a competition caused that. It was just you're watching, and then somebody's gone. It's like, well, okay. And then there's just less competition. I don't know about Elvin if you had anything to say to that.
There was a lot of broken parts on that one, though, for sure. Me and the kids, we watched that. But I think 2 days ago. We watched it for the second time.
Oh.
That's funny because they like come to the race and watch the races at the around here. My kids are not even interested, but they'll dad, drone DRL's on, dad, put it on. And I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah. Don't you know that guy, right? Didn't you guys had that guy on the show, didn't you? I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah. You should ask him this. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool.
I like it. It's getting people into it. I mean, that's what they made this show for. It's supposed to grab your attention and really, pull you in. And it's doing it.
The kids are starting to, we're starting to get more kids out at the field too. And you're not getting that apprehensive parent. Before they were worried about the danger, but then they were worried about the money. Right now, things are smaller, don't sound so aggressive, and like we had a baby hawk race
Nice.
last weekend, and we had 6 baby hawks running.
Sweet.
And we had one kid come out of nowhere. We just gave him some goggles and the radio and told him try to fly, try to fly the course, and he almost made a lap, man. He almost made a lap. So it's getting pretty funny, I mean, it's simple. You get some stuff that get people interested, and the television is definitely the biggest thing to draw an attraction today. And these kids I noticed my nephew, speaks about DRL too. So it's starting to make mainstream. We just need more kids.
So, Gab, has people started recognizing you as you walk around Canada, or are you still like nobody recognizes you because you have your goggles on when you race?
I'm a nobody here.
Ain't nobody buying you a free beer.
We're gonna have to hold up signs when Gab walks down the street. It's like professional drone pilot.
Yeah.
I mean, the guys. So some of the guys who are interested in drones will, like, which I've never met. They'll come up to me, "Hey, you're this Gab guy," and yeah, okay, sure. Some of the guys here, they know me, but a lot of the people they know. It's a small community out in Montreal anyway, so people already knew me from last year because I was the guy running like the nationals and everything, and I won the nationals too, so. It was just sort of the word was already out that I was the guy, and so I think a lot of the guys knew me from there. But then now new people see me. I don't think that many people see it here in Canada too, but a lot of the people who saw it, I think are just I don't know, they're happy to see that I'm here, and I'm open to talk with people. I'm not it's not because I'm on TV now that I don't talk to people or I stay in my corner. I'll look down at them. I'll chat with them, talk about their quads, see what they're doing, help them out if they need help. It's how it rolls. I mean, it's
Gab's like a ninja, he just pops up on you somewhere and it's like, hey, I'm Gab. No, I'm kidding.
I wonder how it's going to be like at the Multi GP Open once I like going to just like American races to a lot of these more US people who really seen the show.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to get the same questions that I just asked you. I'm guaranteed about 40 times over every day.
A good thing I'm prepared then.
Okay, let's talk about playoffs, and then Elvin's going to give you some lightning questions that we've been asking our DRL pilots. Yeah. Okay, playoffs. You said you crashed out a lot in practices, which like we didn't know, right? Because when it was up when it was with your heat with the Jet, I mean, you were out in the lead as usual, and you were running fast. And Jet, for once, kind of controlled himself, and he was very happy with taking second place and earning the points, much like you, to ensure that he locks in a place to go to London. So, like. Was that expected when you were racing with Jet? Because, I mean, when the last event you were at, and we skipped over one because, you weren't at, I forget, Boston.
Boston.
But you and Jet were competing very aggressively in Mardi Gras. Were you expecting like the same type of level of competition going into the playoffs? Because he kind of hanged back a little bit.
Well, I mean, we talk a lot among the pilots, and I knew he told me he was doing that. So I knew he'd probably be going easy because that's what he said. I don't really feel the need to push it. I don't need to be all out aggressive and push and risk crashing because I don't want to crash myself out. And I guess he sort of recognized that I had a good pace, and at the beginning he was also going up and down in the rhythm, and then we sort of found our pace, let's say, a bit together, and it sort of depended on who got the faster start. And then I was ahead, and I'm like, okay, you just stay behind and let's get our points in, and it doesn't really matter where you finish. I mean, DRL has been a bit deceptive on that side. So at the end of the season I had the biggest points win in the whole season. I had way more points than anybody else, but it did not matter at all. All that got me was pole position at the start of that elimination race in Munich, and I was not feeling it. So you fought all season long. You get to the elimination race, and you're not feeling it. What does that amount to? It's not about consistency. It's just you need to be consistent and win the races just to make sure you're there. But once you're there, it's what you do then and there that matters. It's this sort of weird format they have that is, I guess, great for TV because it creates that moment of tension, right? It's it's always the elimination, and if you screw up, you're out, you're going home, and no one wants to go home, so everybody gets tense, and you see the emotion, everybody's crying, and that's what we want. That's what we want, emotion in this. But it's not motorsports. Motorsports would be the other way around, right? Motorsports would be you just gain points, and who's got the most points, he just wins. But anyway, that's just a sort of digression to say that it doesn't really matter your absolute result. If you have to be in the top three, well, just make sure you're in the top three and make sure you're prepared for what comes after. That's the biggest concern.
That's easy for you to say when you've been in the top three in all of your races, Gab. But a lot of the rest of the pilots, they're fighting and scraping, and it's been tough on them. I mean,
DRL is very deceptive. As I said, I don't know. Maybe the reason why I've managed to have good results so far is because I always fear what's going to happen. I feel like maybe some of the others, they win and they think, okay, I've won now, so I own something, or I feel maybe they feel entitled to winning every time now, and because they've learned something special. I don't know honestly I don't know, but to me it's a battle every time, and that's why we were talking about earlier. Drone racing is bloody hard, and it always will be bloody hard. No matter if I won 10 races in a row, it does not matter. It's like if you roll the dice, you still have one chance in 6 to roll the 6.
Right.
You can roll 10 dices in a row. It's always one chance out of 6. It doesn't matter if you roll 10 sixes in a row. The one after is still as hard to get. So to me, it's the same type of battle, and it's hard on the nerves because you feel you've given it everything, and you have to do it again. And it's like the heats, the 7 heats. It gets you so tired. Honestly, it drains your nerves. After the championship, after a DRL race, I'm gone for a week. I can't. My emotions are not working right. I just need to chill out, peace out.
But that's part of your racing. I mean, you're a professional racer now. You're supposed to be able to refrain from blah 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 blah, blah bullshit. You're a human being. You're not just you may fly like a robot most of the time. You're just calculating that line that whole time, but you are a human being, and it's good to see the struggle from within. You know what I mean? It's always that, and all the guys that race for DRL is doing their best on that particular day. You know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to. And I keep trying to talk to my guys, my new guys. I got a guy here who's kind of like you, real calm, cool, and collective, but really, really fast, smooth lines.
Sweet.
And I'm gonna give him a little shout out, Florian. And but he's like you, and trying to get him rattled is the big thing, and because you're not that guy, you don't get rattled. I mean, I've talked crap to you before, just before a race, and I know you don't get rattled. And it works. That works for you. So as long as you keep that that mentality of looking at it as you're there to perform and do the best that you can at that time. And you only have really one opportunity each time you fly to perform and be the best that you can be, right?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, one last question before we get into the lightning round. So,
Yeah.
Gab, what'd you think of the playoff track? I actually kind of liked it of all of the 2-lap races. I think it was probably my favorite one of the 2-lap races.
I honestly, I don't know if I liked it. It was one of these races where I think none of us wanted to be. None of us wanted to be there. It was just one of those high stakes races. We just came all the way to Europe, and this is what's happening. But we really like to be in London, so we were there like, we better not screw this one up. So I don't know if any one of us really liked the track because of that, because just the mental overload that was just going with it. But I mean, otherwise, technically, there wasn't much altitude change. But the lines were nice. Some of the beginning sweeping turn, the big sweeping turn up into the upper level was actually really interesting, really hard, because like Jet would actually smoked us during the practice. Like I'd start off at the front, and then Jet would come out from behind, make that turn. Like I don't know what he did, but every time, boom, he'd overtake me through that thing, and I had no idea. Like I was like on the throttle throughout this turn, and Jet just comes out of nowhere and takes it better. So it was one of those tracks where we really had to start thinking about our lines, as we were talking earlier, and getting them right. My practice round didn't go well, and I wasn't getting the lines. I was too far out. People would catch me, like after we'd go from the rafter, we'd have to do a split S down into through the tunnel, and that I'd go too far every time, and they'd take me every time. They'd have more speed. So it was. I think it was just the nerves. That sort of ruined the track experience for me on that one. But
yeah, definitely. I mean, it's the playoffs, right? It's win and you advance or you're done. That's a lot of pressure, right?
Bye.
And it was delicate too. I mean, also I don't think they portrayed it well enough. Like the outdoor section was actually really hard. So there was this the gravity gate, which we had to do, which is one of those moments where it's always you really tense up. Oh, I'm going through the gravity gate. I made it. Yes, it's one of those moments where you're so happy you made it, and then you get out to the outdoors, and it's a walkway. So it's
Very
not
narrow.
wider than your average walkway. They're just like a meter wide. It's not actually that wide when you're going like on the straightaway where you can pick up speed easily. And there's this stupid chicane in it. There's a net on one side.
Everybody struggled on that one. It was so funny. Hey, let me ask you something, because in level 2, like when you bolt into that corridor and then you had to take that right, it seemed like that was the same type of turn, but people were like crushing through that in level 2. That corridor with the run cam cable thing. At the end, there's a door, and you just had to snap right. Yep. That looked like the same door as the last one, except everybody had trouble with this one. I mean, what was different? It was just.
Yeah, this one was hard because there was the netting first on the side, so you couldn't open the line and see the door coming. You'd have, if you're at speed, it was basically a move like a left turn, a right turn, and you're through. So it was like a very quick sequence there, and with not much space to play around with, because there's this railing in the middle, so you have to go over the railing, and the door was relatively low, so you had to go over the railing, like watch out for the net, squeeze next to the net, which is invisible, by the way, in goggles. So you have to go close to this invisible net, go over this railing, which you don't see very well either, because it's also like a barred structure anyway. And then you have to like dive down and make the turn into this thing. So it was, you had to lose altitude and make the turn and bleed off the speed off the straightaway. So it was one of the places where I honestly just played the safe card. To me, it didn't matter if someone overtakes me there. If they make it through, then I'll applaud you all day. But fortunately enough, it didn't happen too much. I mean, I managed to be fast enough, even though I was going slowly. So I guess I was doing something right.
Well, I think you and Zach Thayer had the slowest line through there, and he took it majorly easy. It was like, and that speaks to how hard it was, because like 2 of the fastest pilots decided to take the slowest line. It was
Yeah.
just funny how much people struggled there, and the heart attack that you had on the first get go through there, in which you literally like the Gab equivalent of having a heart attack is like him yawning almost, because but you saw the difference on TV, and it was very amusing that you actually had to get off your seat and stretch out a little bit, like how much time do you had between heats to for you to calm down your adrenaline?
We have a bit of time. It's not that long, but I'd say 5 minutes maybe.
Okay, so
there's a whole protocol that goes around those races. It depends what race exactly it is, but you'd come off the race and you'd get a few seconds to just chill and wait until everybody finishes, and then someone would go in for an interview, and then there's going to be some time because there's 1 or 2 interviews, and then you need to like hover test the next drone. So you need to hover test it and then check the camera angle and then check everything's going fine, and then you're off to the races for the next one again. So I mean, there's still time, but you don't really always get that much breathing room, and then all the pilots around you are trash talking you, so you better be on your guards.
That's right. They want to throw you off your game. So for you, were you calmed down by the next heat after that little heart attack?
Yeah, I calmed myself right down there. I had not done much effort before that, and then through there, I had to like stretch. Do that bit of meditation or pseudo meditation, calm down, and it worked. Honestly, it worked really well. Like the next heat, I took it, so it was worked out there.
Yeah,
The look was in.
The lock was in. To tell you the truth, the first turn was actually a very fun turn to watch in that race, because a lot of people took a whole bunch of different ways, and like I think 60% of them are really great, and the other 40% you always ended up in the rafters and crashed out. It was
it's actually hard because you have to you can't really be high like going into it, because there's basically like a curved ceiling thing. So you couldn't be really at that level. You had to go from below to up, and that's usually a hard turn to do in drone racing, because the momentum carries you up and you're not used to the momentum carrying you upwards. So when you go fast, it just that's why the guys would just end up in the lights. I think every race there's at least 1 or 2 guys who'd end up smacking the lights at the top. But it's just one of those unusual turns. But even though it looks easy, it looks simple, the DRL guys, I don't know how they do it, but they always have this trick to making these turns that look so easy, so simple, but they're actually really hard, because we're pushing the limits of what the drone can do. So It just doesn't behave how you're used to having it, because it's at the limit. The flight controller can barely keep up. So.
That's pretty cool. All right. You ready, Elvin, for the lightning round?
Yeah.
All right. So, Gab.
Yeah.
Wait, should I stretch out a bit here before this?
Yeah. There we go.
Get some of that meditation going.
I want to see you do 10 side throttle hops.
No.
Right now.
So the lightning round is very easy. It's the first pilot that comes to mind when we ask you the question. That's all it is. So
right, that's all it is.
In DRL or
in DRL?
Yeah,
in DRL.
DRL. You ready?
Yep.
Ready for question number 1?
Do it.
All right. Who's got the best game face?
Jet.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
You want me to justify it, or you just want it?
No. We're not gonna go through all that. But best raw talent. Who do you think?
It's hard.
And you can include yourself. Come on.
I'm not that guy.
He's the thinker. He is the thinker. He's processing his own.
I know that was gonna stumble you up right there.
Come on.
All right. Raw talent.
Raw.
I'll give it to Duncan.
Duncan. Right. Oh, okay.
That's good. Best strategist.
That's one of those ones I'd like to say myself, but I can't.
Agreed.
So.
Moving on.
Okay, yeah, we everybody agree on that one, dude. All right, number 4, start slow and finish it strong. Who do you think that is?
Funny enough, that's Duncan again.
Yeah.
You
all right.
saw him
Okay.
So
Duncan. Wow, that's pretty good.
Hey.
Okay, best rookie. Rookies.
Probably Gil. He's a rookie.
Okay.
He's yeah.
That's awesome. Right. Okay. So here's one to lighten it up. Funniest pilot.
Willie, I was joking around.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yeah.
That's kind of how we look at it. Who looks the best on TV?
Oh, Jet, always the deep voice. Have you seen the advert? You always knew.
Gab, that was the one you were supposed to pick yourself. I'm sorry, supermodel Gab. Come on now.
But they'll do like hairstyle commercials. You'll see me.
That's right. I still remember that picture. People still post that.
Yeah, I'll take that picture. Yeah.
All right, that was all the questions that we have. And funny enough is that we've asked this of 3 pilots now, and like the answers are very far ranging. They're not consistent at all. That's good though.
Kind of changes.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like for example, like you asked me about rookies, about guys that go slower than fast. Like for example, Duncan. I thought like Duncan. So if you don't know, Duncan was like a 3D heli like talent. He was like a world champion and whatnot. And he's only, let's say, recently jumped over to drones, and he's got definitely a lot of talent and a lot of aggressivity towards this. But he always also needs to learn to sort of calm his nerves down and do it properly. But when he does, he usually takes like the first half of the race easy, and then the second half really fast. He did that, for example, in Boston. He got like the best lap there because he did that. He was like chasing McStrale, and you think, oh, hey, McStrale is really fast. He's ahead. And then suddenly Duncan turns out the knob, and then he's just locked into his machine, and he just smashed the course record again there. There's these, I don't know, these magical moments that happen sometimes. Like my strategy is like so far on the other side of that. It's really, I'm sure I could probably do this, but I don't want to or need to because I'd rather be consistently up there. It doesn't matter to me if I'm first, second, third. Honestly, I'd rather even a championship race. I'd rather be just on the podium than last. I don't want to give away too much and just, end up losing. I'd rather be just on the podium. It doesn't matter if I'm first.
That is a hard strategy.
That's just me.
That's a hard strategy to employ throughout a race because tensions get high. And then you start thinking, you know what? I'd look really good in first place.
You want to steer away from the ego, I feel. I don't know.
Steer away from the ego.
Man, I'd sure like to stand next to him and look taller.
I could sure use a third propeller in my drawer. Okay, let's steer away from that. The show's not over yet, but great DRL talk. Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing personally. A lot of the stuff that you've been posting recently is some long range stuff, which drones aren't really known for. Let's face it, they're known for about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes of fun, and then you're off changing the batteries. So what brought you onto doing the long range stuff and surfing the mountains?
Yeah,
so that was just I don't know, it feels like it's my natural progression. Before I did any drones, I was a lot into mountaineering, into rock climbing, into all that stuff. I'm an outdoors guy. I used to do kite surfing, windsurfing, like stuff in the mountains. And I just came back from Switzerland. When I moved to Canada, I started drones because I had no outlet anymore. I couldn't do rock climbing anymore. I had no more mountains. There's no mountains here in Montreal. I needed something to just, be out there and feel the adrenaline. And drone racing was a good one for that. But like once I knew the drones and then I went back home to visit family and whatnot, it was just obvious I'm going to go into the mountains with these things. It's just the thing I'm going to do. There's no questioning that. And the inspiration for me, I mean, one of the reasons why I started this is watching probably, Team Black Sheep videos, like those wing videos. He goes up the mountain, he goes down the videos.
I thought you was going to say me this time.
No, you're an unknown. Keep going.
That was just mesmerizing to me, and I thought about it for a very long time. Am I getting into wings or am I getting into quads? And I'm not sure why I chose quads in the end. Probably just because it's a better platform for filming. Wings aren't very good for that. But it's always been my dream to be out there, and that's why I did it.
Okay. What's your setup in order to film that? Because I think it's quite unique.
Mm-hmm. So so one of my videos, which I guess made the biggest impression, was that one sort of surfing. It was my Happy New Year video.
Yep.
Which was just going over a crest, like a snowy crest in this beautiful mountain in Switzerland. That was around New Year's time.
Mhm.
And that caught the attention because it's all stabilized and everything, but we'll talk about that later. But the setup there is just a simple mini quad. Like, there's nothing special about it. It was an OC 210 quad, the ready-made RC. It's like racing motors, 2300 kV rifles, ESCs. I couldn't even tell you. It's just some 30 amp ESCs, probably the ready-made RC ones, because I was running it at the time, like a Dodo. And there was nothing like the receiver. Okay, the receiver, I had an X8R at the time, I think. X8R are relatively good. They have a bit more range than your average XSR or X4R. But they still have the telemetry downlink, so they don't have that much range. Like, I'd actually go out and see my RSSI drop. Like, as I'd go away, I'd have an OSD. And that was like my first sort of experiences in long range was with just a normal mini quad. Honestly, you can do a lot in the few minutes that you have on a mini quad. With a mini quad, if you fly it easy, you can fly 4 or 5 minutes. And that's way enough to go out 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers, come back. It's no big deal. Like, now, since then, I've moved on a bit. I use a lot of the Team Blackship gear. So, for example, my main long range machine now, I mean, it's like this the TBS G2. It's a sort of prototype frame that he did. I'm not sure if he's going to be like making this like on a bigger scale, but it's basically a sandwich between carbon foam and carbon again. So it's really light, but at the same time, it's relatively stiff. But it's not as sturdy to vibrations. So I've had issues tuning it, and a lot of people I know that have issues with it too. But I've sort of found a nice way to use it now on 6-inch props, and with their endurance motors, I can really just hammer this thing. Like, I'd fly mini quad style for 6-7 minutes. I'd really push it. Like, you're throttling up the hill, slamming it down the hill again, and you're having fun. And you can go out, as far as you could reach. You just have to remain, in line of sight.
Right.
But I mean, one of the key points that makes it, people ask me a lot about is like, what's the video system you use? How can you go that far? That's one of the things that you really need to do a bit better, is you just need a better patch antenna. Like, if you just have Omni antennas, you're not going to go out very far. You go out a few hundred meters, you'll go out maybe 1 kilometer. Honestly, I wouldn't know. But like, what makes the difference for me is, was it True RC, one of my sponsors. He makes a really good patch antenna, which is like a 13 dB antenna with a wide 170 degree field. And that makes a huge difference. It's so much more sensitive that you can go that far. As long as you're in like line of sight, you don't go behind something, you don't dip behind the mountain, you'll bring it back. There you go. Alvin has the X there. That's the ones you want to have. They make such a big difference. And I get so many people asking me, what are you doing? What's so different? I can't fly 100 meters. My video goes to crap. Just get a good VTX, get a good receiver, because that's a big difference too. And get good antenna.
Ground station counts.
Yeah.
I never actually use a ground station. I just recently bought a Clearview. I want to do the test. I want to do this sometime soon. And a good Clearview with just Omni antennas versus my goggle module with the really good antennas.
Which goggle module?
It's the Furious V2. That's honestly, that's what I've been using for long range. I've been out like 2-3 kilometers with that and come back, no problems.
I've been using that.
But the antennas,
yeah,
make a difference.
What VTX and what antenna on your quad?
On the I usually use either ready-made RC Crickets or the TBS Unify VTX. On the antenna side, I usually use the Axie from True RC.
Okay.
Or yeah.
Are you running 6 or 800 or 200 milliwatts? I mean,
that depends. Usually 200. 200 is way enough.
Really?
Unless you're going
for out
really
there,
big.
yeah, 2 miles, 2 miles, yeah.
Yeah, unless I don't go that far. Honestly, I go maybe a mile and a half. I never go more than Or maybe I did it once, I think. But
He is trusting with his equipment. That's all I'm going to say. Maybe he's willing to hike up the mountain, but I don't think anybody else is willing to hike up that
I
mountain.
am totally down to do that. I don't like flying in places where I will not recover it. And that's been one of my mottos for a long time.
Mhm.
Like, I will not fly where I can't recover it, where I can't hike out and go back and get it. And I've had to do it a couple of times. I'm not going to lie. I even crashed it in a cliff once. And it was just one of those days where we went rock climbing, actually. So that was quite fortunate. We went rock climbing. We did the whole route. It's like, took like 5-6 hours. We came back down and we're like, hey, how about we just fly some drones? And that would be fun, wouldn't it? Yeah, well, you'll check out the goggles, everything. So here I am flying up the mountains, showing off to my buddies. And there I go. Obviously, I misjudged a wind gust, and that slammed me straight into the wall. And I'm stuck in that tree all the way up there. Like, oh, no.
All right, bust out the gear. We're going back up.
Exactly. We climbed the whole thing back up, and we went and recovered it. But yeah, it was interesting. Like, we were way up this thing. Like, it was like a few hundred, I think 300, 400 feet up. And you hear the little, the little beep the ESCs make. It's somewhere there. It's somewhere there.
They are so helpful sometimes. Like in those events, they're so helpful. It's like, it's beeping. Yeah. That's good.
I lost one flying in the rain, so it just kept flying. Just kept going.
And kept
fail
going.
Safe.
Yeah, the fail safe kicked in, but we were just goofing off trying to see how long we could fly it. It just so happened, just as I pitched up to do an Immelman, it locked me out and just kept going.
Oh no.
And there she goes, folks. Goodbye, quad. And it happens. So talk to me about how you do your stabilized cam.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was one of the things that I started doing that got me noticed, is the addition of the stabilization, because mini quad footage looks great. It's actually really hard to film with a mini quad because there's a lot of movements that you do with your fingers because you're controlling a flying machine. I mean, there's no going two ways about it. You're trying to control the thing and filming at the same time, and it's the same input that goes into both things. So you're being a cameraman and an operator at the same time, and that's hard. So that's why there's usually a lot of movements, little subtle things that are hard to iron out. You try to be as smooth as you can, but you can't get everything out of it. And on top of that, there's going to be wind gusts, and there's going to be turbulence, and your quad's going to shake. So to sort of get over that, I reached out to the guy from who does Real Steady. It was, I think, one of my Ibiza clips. I was just so happy with it. It's one of those. It's actually on my YouTube. It's I was there on the seafront, and there's like these rocks, and there's this cliff there, and it has a big crack right down the middle. It's like a tower, but like two towers, and there's a gap, perfect gap in the middle to fly down through. And I filmed that, and it was just so shaky because of the wind, and I was just so disappointed in it. And I thought I reached out to this guy from Real Steady, who makes this stabilization software, and he said, okay, sure, I'll try stabilizing, see what happens. Sent it back to me, and that was just, my mind was blown with that thing. Like, no way, how did you just do that? And like, since then we've become better friends and spoke about like understanding how this works, and I use it now on a lot of my clips. It just adds this sort of extra little magical dimension. It's, I don't know, like you definitely alter what you had, the experience you had from just a GoPro. You don't see that the fisheye, whatnot. It sort of flattens the whole picture out. That adds some artifacts in the corners. They start sort of blurring out. You get like a lot of motion blur, and depending on the maneuvers that you do, it looks a bit weird. So you got to be a bit careful, let's say. But it adds a really nice touch to the videos. It adds maybe almost CGI look to it, which is really cool. But
no,
that's something.
Yeah, no, it's cool because there's so many people doing FPV videos or HD videos that having an extra element like that nobody else is doing gets you noticed, and that's what it's doing for you. So it is cool, though. I mean, like, it's just something unique, and yeah, I don't know. You get tired of looking at flipping videos, and sometimes you just want to watch something that's a little bit more smoother.
No, it gets kind of boring. 7 years of watching this stuff moving. You know, you want to sit down and watch some videos, man. You like, what the? Oh man, next, 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 next. Next, 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 next. Oh, come on, guys. Let me see something new. You know, let me see something, you know, innovative. You know, there's a lot of guys, you know, taking chances, you know, and playing the numbers, but you know, really, there's not really a lot that has changed in drone racing or in the maneuvers that guys are doing. Yeah, there's different camera aspects, but really a lot of guys are not. That's what I love about long range though, because
oh dear,
you got those.
It's gonna get on a soapbox.
Those
Yeah.
those beautiful long flights, you know, 5, 10, 15 minutes.
Boring.
You know. Hey, you know what? You ain't done it yet, so you know you keep talking. You know?
Oh, they're fun to actually be out there on the stage.
Right.
I'm just saying they're kind of boring to watch.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, but now there's a difference. Now there's like
what you do.
what he's doing. What he's doing is stabilizing it. Now, if you saw two planes out who were meant to be following each other and filming each other, that's also another aspect too. So.
Yeah, coordinated flying is definitely very interesting to watch. Tandem, you can fly more.
To me, what really makes it stand out and be a bit different is the line. I mean, I don't think it's just the stabilization. The stabilization gives it that sort of maybe a little extra polish. Mm-hmm. But I think the flying in of itself, like I've posted clips just raw, and people have just dug it just as much. Right. It's just that it maybe it isn't as appealing for a wide audience. Like if you take just some random guy who's never seen drone videos, he's gonna love the stabilized stuff like much more. And that's what I'm trying to. I mean,
trying to
get people into the hobby too, right? They see the videos and they just love it, and they're interested and they want to see. Oh, I want to do this too. How do I get into filming like you do in the mountains? Well, it's not that easy, buddy. But,
it ain't that cheap. Don't forget that part. Don't forget that part.
People don't realize it's a lot of skill. I don't like. It's hard. It's really hard. I don't know. I mean, I'd say everything's hard, but it is like you're way out there and you're flying like a meter away from the cliff. I don't know why I do it, but I just find it. I get the kick out of it. It's fun, and for me, it's really about the. It's about the line. You know, you see like visualizing a whole line, the trajectory. You're going through this, through there, and this is. It's a storytelling. It's storytelling at the same time. People get the experience that you're flying something. You're in something flying. A drone doesn't give you that experience normally. A drone, your usual camera drone is, oh, I'm parked here. I am a camera standing in the sky. Oh,
right.
What do I see from up here? And this is flying. This is not the same thing.
See, look, the passion comes out.
What?
The passion comes out. Even when flying, he's still talking about lines. It's so funny.
Right. Yeah, but see, that's part of his makeup.
It is. It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. It's like
that's been drilled into him since he started go-kart.
That's
what
true.
He said.
That's true. Hey.
It's somebody gave him the proper tools to racing at that age, and he's done well with it. You guys need to pay attention. This stuff ain't new. You know, people been doing this stuff about 80 years racing. You know,
racing's
hardcore racing.
All over the place. Yeah.
Right, all over the place, all over the world. And whether it's drones, cars, airplanes, pylon racing, you know, it's a lot of the fundamentals are shared all the way around.
Definitely.
Yeah, you make a point there. Maybe that's one of the differences. Is I learned to race before I got into quads. Mm-hmm. And I'm like a lot of people do it the other way around. They get into quads and they expect they're going to go racing.
Right.
And it's not the same approach to it.
No, it's definitely different. And I don't know. I think fundamentally speaking, it also depends on the type of racing that you were brought into, because like grassroots racing is so far divergent from what we see in DRL racing. So I think they're learning bad habits because the equipment allows them to bury bad habits pretty easily.
Right.
This is what I found so outrageous. Like, I mean, yeah, a lot of you probably heard that MultiGP came up with a spec class.
Right.
But a spec class is a very modern racer with like the biggest motors that you can get and the most badass batteries and the most badass props and the most badass this and that, and it's an absolute war machine.
Right.
You could it's a really, really fast racer. I would have really hoped for something slow, actually. Like, so if someone's new, they can come in and, you know, not have something that they're just going to drive into a wall with, and just have something that's easier to fly, and we can really see the pilot, and we can really see the lines, and we can really see who's ready to race, and have head-to-head racing, close racing. Like, also even DRL, like 2016, the Racer 2, I mean, I can say it now, but I couldn't say it at the time, but now I can say it because we have Racer 3, but Racer 2 flew like crap. It was a flying brick.
Everybody knew. Come on, everybody knew that. Anybody that knew German racing knew that.
No one would tell you. No one would sort of say it because it was DRL's Racer, and DRL's Racer, I mean, it was cool, and it did its job beautifully, and it gave us some really, really tight races. And everybody's full throttle on the straightaway. Everybody's full stick. You cannot go any faster. It's not your thinking can't do it. It's full stick, and there's another guy just half a meter off you, and you're trying to compete and get the better line. And, you know, everybody's still at full stick. So it's just where you fly and how you fly that makes the difference. It's not how much you can push the stick. The stick's already at the maximum. Just think about it.
The stick's already at the max. Okay, I'm gonna give a bunch of quotes from Gab.
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain.
That's right. And I don't know. Grassroots racing is either fundamentally has to change, or we're just going to have. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to get into that subject because I don't want to be negative. Let's move.
I don't want to get.
Yeah, let's move into the Gab frame. Gab, what are you trying to do with your frame? Because you're working with somebody on the Katana 220. So what's the Gab frame?
The Gab frame. So the Katana 220, if you've seen it, it's a frame by a guy called N Racing. He's a local guy in Montreal, and he made a frame. He was actually building a frame with vertical arms at the beginning, and he was like, he came to me saying, "Hey, you should. What do you think about
vertical
this?"
height.
Vertical arms. So the arms were really thin, and the idea is that it's more aerodynamic, and you're going to get all the thrust that you can get, and it's going to be all this fancy things. And after sort of going back and forth with him, I told him, look, you should just make it, just do standard plates thicker and make them really narrow, because you're going to get the same advantages. It's going to be so much easier to build. And the problem is vertical arms have all these weird effects too. Like when you fly, you get the wind, the oncoming wind sort of hits into them. And then when you're like sideways, it's not always the same. Aerodynamically, it's not the same experience. So I told him to go with something simpler, and anyway, he made a frame that's really sturdy. It's got like vertical plates. It's got a pod on top of a full carbon pod. It's pretty much like, it's one of these things that are like indestructible. But the arms are really thin and really efficient. So you get a craft that's very efficient, that's fast, and that's pretty sturdy. I mean, when you get through thin arms, they break. Sure, they break when you slam it full speed into something. But, you know, it's okay for a frame to break at that point, as far as I'm concerned. And you get a quick mechanism to change out the arms, put a new one in, and you're after the races again. So now the Gab frame adds to that is I just wanted to have something light and just remove the pod, and let's make something that that will flex. So there's a lot of TPU involved. Basically, all the mounts are flexible. So you're taking, instead of having this really hard and solid frame around your equipment, it's something where the equipment can move around, and it sort of doesn't break because it just gets shifted. Like the camera has a little protector thing. It's not insanely protected, but if it hits, it moves out of the way a bit, and then it sort of saves it. I've crashed so many times on it. I've never broken a camera. I thought that would be the first thing I'd smack, but it's working out. So I'm digging it. It's sort of a light version of that frame with the pod, but we're still refining the little details, the little prints to make it look pretty and work as we want it.
Oh, supermodel frame Gab. Okay, so is this something that's limited edition, or is all the parts included, all the TPU stuff, or 3D printed stuff, or whatever?
Yeah, the 3D printed stuff is going to be it comes with the frame, and then all the 3D files are accessible. You can modify them, add little fins on them if you want, or make them better if you find a new way. It's all open source. I mean, the idea is just to make something, just a simple base, like, because I don't think there are that many frames out there that do that. For example, Brian Morris Brain Drain has a frame like that where he just has a bottom plate and everything just 3D printed. And if he goes slammo into a gate, he just destroys his flight control and his VTX, and everything just cracks into two. This is sort of almost the same thing, but it has a little top plate to save it, so it's a bit safer. But the idea is, to make something retunable, that people can interpret however they like it.
Okay, cool. Is that going to be out sometime this year, or like you
that
just have
should be
no time?
So the regular Katana 220 from N Racing is already available. He's got those in stock, but the Gab707 version, I think we're just maybe a few weeks out. We're just fine-tuning the last prints, and once we got those ready, it's going to be available too. Because it's basically the same. It's the same bottom structure. Like the base plate is the same. It's just we take away the pod and we put something simpler in the case.
Okay, cool. So 220. So that's a 5-inch frame, right?
It's a 5-inch frame, yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other sizes, or are you just sticking with a 5-inch?
There's a 6-inch version, which I'm hoping to be trying for long range. I do my long range on 6-inch, by the way, because 7-inch tends to induce vibrations in your camera, and you need to start like really soft mounting your recording camera. So I'm on 6-inch. The arm, there's a version where the arms are just a bit longer, so you can just accommodate 6-inch props, and I think that's going to be it. And there's 5-inch and a 6-inch version. I mean, it's a 220, so it's a bit wider than like the absolute minimum that you can do. But I've from experience, I've seen that slightly wider stances tend to be a bit more stable. So I think it's a good compromise. It's not a stretch; it's just a symmetric, because those are lighter. I personally don't really believe in these stretch X hype and stuff going on. Everybody just swears by their stretch X's. You can also make a slightly wider X, and it just does the same thing.
I can tell you that I like it. There's some things I don't like about it. Because it seems to be more of a pendulum, when you're flying. But I do like that it's more stable when you're going faster, when you're wide open. But it sucks in those tight, super agile courses, because you have the weird pitch angle you got to deal with.
Well, this sort of comes back to the discussion I feel we've had, but most of the racing, I think, is really pilot based, so you should just fly whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
I've always flown symmetric X's, and I think that's where I am at, because there's also some other key differences. I don't think we'll hear too much about it in DRL this year, but it may come in next year, is how do you take your corner? Because there is an infinity of ways of taking the corner and taking the same line. It just depends where you're actually looking. You can, for example, if you go around the pylon, around the flag, you can turn your camera and always be looking at the pylon while you go around. That's one way to do it.
Right.
And you can also, it involves, a lot of yaw, because you need to yaw around the corner. You can also just roll into the corner. So you're actually not looking at the flag, you're looking straight ahead where you're going. And that's it's a different way to do it, but I tend to do it because it allows me, I think, to get the altitude control better. But if you've got a symmetric X, you sort of approach these corners in the same way. If you've got a stretch X, I feel like it sort of changes the way the quad is in the air. The aerodynamics is not the same. So I don't see why I should do a whole fuss about changing the geometry. Just fly whatever you're comfortable.
Fly what you like. Fly what you like. Cool. I'm sure.
Fly what you want. Fly what you like.
Okay, Mr. I want to own every frame in the world over there. Elvin will have his when it comes out.
I have what I can afford.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We're approaching 2 hours. Gab is like on a marathon run here. Team Canada. What can you tell us about Team Canada, Gab?
Team Canada is something very unique. I don't think any other country in the world has a national team FPV. The reason why we created an FPV team, was for the Hawaii the Worlds. It was one of those occasions where we had the nationals, and we know there was this big competition, and we needed to get the best pilots together, and we wanted sponsors. We didn't want to pay for our trip to Hawaii, and we thought this is a good opportunity for someone to hop in and support us. So So we're very fortunate to have a really good manager, and he through contacts managed to get us the National Bank on board, and through like that we've built this relationship, and now we really have we've been growing the team, bringing on more and more people. We work together with the league, so we have sort of a budget, and part of our budget goes towards just obviously like sponsorships. We try as much as possible to get our sponsor names out in the country. Internationally, because it's supposed to be an international team. We go to all the major events like the Multi-GP International Open. We'll be there as Team Canada, representing the best in Canada. That's where we want to be. But it also goes towards like leagues. So, for example, our league, like FPV Canada, we want to back them. We're going to be working with them. We have a drone racing federation that's up and coming in Canada. We're backing those kinds of projects. And I mean, it's really about pushing the sport into the right direction. We want to support up and coming pilots. Like when I was a few years ago, when I was up and coming, I had to go to events and go to nationals, go to all these events and get my name out there. And you want to support these kinds of pilots, and if you see talent, you want to support it as much as possible and get those pilots out to the races where it matters. So that's where the national team comes in and pushes these pilots to be better, to do their best, and give them the opportunity where maybe they don't have it.
Cute.
Gotta be number one.
Gotta be number one. All right.
Number one.
So before we let you wrap up, you gotta tell a funny story about your buddy Ryan so that we can force him to watch this 2-hour episode.
Oh man! So he has to watch it like all the way until the end.
Because we won't tell him when that happens.
Gotta watch the whole thing.
Exactly.
You can't tell him it's at the end though.
No, I can't. No, we're gonna post this as Ryan. We said something about you, but we're not gonna tell you when. You don't have to if you don't want to. But Ryan is our buddy, you know.
It's bad.
No, manager Ryan, he's going to kick him off the team.
No, he won't.
That's probably true.
I'm just going to tell him it's something bad that he needs to go listen to make sure, that'll get him. That'll get Ryan.
Yeah.
Is he still doing well? Ryan's a funny guy, and I still like your quotes. Like he walks into the room with 10 strangers and he makes 10 friends because it's totally true.
Absolutely. And he's been, he was in our early days when we were just team zero thrust before we sort of hopped onto the Canada story. He was our main mingler and just talk to people and get the word out that we're the guys. We're the guys to watch out for.
Hey,
now
that worked.
Things have evolved quite a bit since then, but he also made the cut for the national team, so it's awesome that he's also on board. He's actually team captain this year, so he's pushing us around and getting all the people pushing us to go practice and post our videos and.
Well, that's good.
There we go. So we got to put team captain Ryan on our list of people to catch up with because he's always fun to talk to.
Absolutely.
One of the things that we do want to talk about this time around is battery safety. Before or at the first podcast that we did with Gab, we didn't cover the story, or I don't think it happened yet. There was a LiPo
I don't think it had happened.
No, it hadn't happened yet. It happened like a little while after.
Yeah, I remember seeing it as the GoFundMe account, and that's how I heard about it. Why don't you go ahead and tell us the story, because it really is a good story to tell people how important it is to treat these batteries safely.
Yeah, so the thing is, people don't really understand how dangerous these batteries are because you think of them in your cell phones and your laptops and all those devices, but there is one crucial difference between a drone and a laptop is that you don't throw it around every day after day, smack it into poles at full speed. Right. So LiPos tend to deteriorate, and they're very dangerous objects. And what happened to me, essentially, I was charging. It was one of those days where I was getting my packs ready to go out to the field. I was out in another room at the other end of the apartment, and you're charging, and then suddenly we heard some little crackling. I thought, we have a cat, so we thought that's probably the cat playing around. And then not long after that, the smoke alarm goes off. Deet, 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 deet. So out I go running, I turned up and the cupboard I was charging was like black in flames. Everything started to take on fire. I had like hockey gear, everything like textiles were like burning everywhere. So I tried to grab stuff, throw it out the window, try to stop the fire. I wouldn't say that was a good idea, but I got myself burned on the way. Maybe we slowed down the fire a bit. It was not a very good experience, to be honest. The place was just, within 10, 20 seconds, everything was on fire. There was like smoke all the way down to like 1.5 meters in the room. That's like, 3-4 feet. So you had to duck down. At that moment, we just left the place. So I think I grabbed my laptop. I grabbed my camera. And that was it.
Hey, you got to hustle out of there, man, because your safety is the most important thing. And, we're really glad that nobody got hurt out of it. Burn down an apartment, you can always replace the stuff. But, going from that story, one of the things that the DRL, when they covered that story, that they didn't do was how to actually take care of these batteries. Because when I started out, I didn't know this. Somebody told me along the way, and I actually kind of blew it off. And then, you start hearing about lipo fires, and then you can YouTube it, and you see these things go off in a jet of flame. You got to respect them. One of the major things about lipos is that you don't want to store them fully charged, because they're basically, they're little bags of dynamite that, if they deteriorated enough, they're just going to explode and catch everything on fire, which Gab found out the hard way, unfortunately. So
it's not that I wasn't warned before. I knew those things were dangerous. It's just that you'd assume you're charging it, and the charger is taking care of your battery, and that's good, right?
You get complacent. That's all it is. Be honest. I mean, you go through charging every day, right? The way you fly, the way I fly, and some other guys fly, you're charging batteries every day. So, you get into this little routine. You just get up, click, click, boom, click, tick, and you walk away, because nothing's normal. The normal thing is time after time, usually nothing's going to happen. Usually you're not going to have an issue. But then there's that one that does, and you're on the other side of the house, and that battery swells up, and then it goes poof. And it doesn't make a big loud noise, but it does go
and out there come flames and heat, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. I don't know if you've actually tried to look at this. I was talking to a guy who works at Le Clancher. Is like one of the bigger battery manufacturers there in Switzerland. And their protocol is they basically, when they're working on batteries, they have these huge buckets of water. And if anything goes wrong, they just dump everything into the water.
Right.
And the thing is, you think, water is going to stop a battery, but it does not. A battery will burn underwater, under sand, under whatever you put on it. You can starve it from oxygen, it will still burn, because it's a chemical fire. It's not a fire like wood or what. It takes oxygen, and the combustion is driven by that. This is just purely chemical. It's just pure energy that's coming out of there, and nothing you can do will stop it. So, for example, putting them in water will get the fumes out of the way. So it will make them a bit less harmful. And so it's a bit, you can at least carry the bucket outside and do something about it. But, my biggest safety measure has been so far, I started looking into, can I charge like in boxes and like ammo cans and whatnot? Can I drill into the side and make something very ultra complicated? But the reality is, I have a lot of batteries to charge. And if I need to like unbox them and put them in like, it's such a loss of time. So I think the easiest way to do it is really to just have them next to you. If anything goes wrong, I've got a box there ready. If anything goes wrong, the battery swells. It becomes hot. It's going to swell first. You grab it, you toss it in the box, and you put it outside. You put it maybe in a can of water if you got one. That would be even better. But the key word is really just act fast and be next to it. Like my batteries are right here next to me, 1 meter away from me, and I never leave them. Honestly, I go to the bathroom, I turn them off. I go to the bathroom, I come back, I put them back on.
He has learned.
You may call me paranoid, but that's what I do.
Well,
that's not, I got a hole in the table right here to tell you. And I was sitting right here when it happened. I'm sitting here, and I was like, man, I'm tired. I want to take a nap, man, but I better not take a nap. I hit that battery just right, man. I hope I didn't. And then, oh boy. But yeah, right through the table. And it was a little one, a little battery, 1,000, but it went fast,
Oh yeah.
and you couldn't stop it. But
There you
I've
go,
seen
so-
seen some pretty gnarly fires afterwards, and yeah, they're so. What you want to take away from this is number one, if you're not using them, put them on storage charge, about 3.4 volts, somewhere around there. Don't store them fully charged.
Wait. 3.8 volts.
3.8 volts. Sorry, my bad.
3.3
3.4.
is the absolute minimum you can go on a battery. 3.4 is a rather low charge, completely
Yes.
discharged.
You're right. That's complete discharge. 3.8 is about 40%, I think, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that is a good storage charge. A lot of people, some people like battery maniacs, they actually put them in the refrigerator. I don't think you really need to do that. Yeah, you're crazy. If you want, here's what I suggest. Have ammo cans, but they're for what Gab says. If one of the batteries looks bad, that's the one you put into the ammo can and safely tuck away. You can throw like a bag of dirt in there. I don't think water works in an ammo can, so a bag of dirt, a bag of sand, so that if it does catch on fire, the sand will help contain it, and then you bring it outside and let it burn itself out, because that's all it's going to do, because you're not going to stop it, like you said. Chemical fires, they just don't, you just need to let them burn out.
I've opened up a lipo and seen, you rupture one and you see it, burn itself out going through the cells. The copper, it actually, the copper is burning off. That's what you see. If you remember the fire you saw, it had like a greenish hue to it because of that copper, the copper plating in there. But yeah, it can be intensive. So just be careful, man, because I can tell you, I've been charging batteries since 1992.
How many did caught on fire?
Seven.
There you
fires.
go.
7.
Everybody who's been in this for long enough will have at least burned up 1 or 2 batteries.
Right.
And it's not because, okay, there's a human error. I think that's our biggest.
I can tell you three of to human error. My son was charging a NiCad battery. He was zip charging NiCads, and one of my 6S5000s was sitting on it. The 6S5000 went off, and it went through a chain reaction. It took out like 140,000 milliamps of batteries. I mean, batteries it was huge. I sat in my living room with a hose putting out the fire, and a water hose. Connected the hose up to the wash machine, and then just kept it running. And we had to get somebody to come in the house and drain all the water out of the house. But I put
that's how it goes.
out.
And the problem is you may think that, okay, I've got it in a can, for example, and there's only smoke coming out. But the problem is smoke does as much damage as fire. Like in my apartment, there's only like one small area that actually burned. So the heat actually like burned like the room that the stuff was in, but the rest of the apartment was pitch black and completely gone, damaged, and everything was like, the smoke gets so hot that everything just melts. So, and
you don't want to be breathing that in. It is lithium. It is lithium. So I mean, we're all of us that's been doing this a long time. We've seen a lipo fire. We know that to be careful, and you get complacent, man, and you just forget. You walk out of the room, you go across the room, go across the house. I've stepped out of the house and been talking to the neighbor and go, what the? Hey, wait a minute! I come right back. Let me go turn this thing off, and because it's just that one time that I've known of 2 people that lost their houses because of lipo fires. So, but that was early in the beginning. That was human error mostly. We were still trying to find out things about lipos that we know not to do anymore. And everybody knows not to be charging over 4.2 volts.
Yeah.
All right. So that is our safety tip of the week. And
hang on. I got 2 more tips.
Okay, 2 more. Go.
And they're important because I don't think a lot of people know them. The first thing is that a battery can actually take on fire after it's been charged. So you think that you've fully charged your battery and it's fine, and nothing happened to it, right? The thing is, a battery that's been damaged the chemistry inside may still be working, and it's actually
Right.
still working for about an hour. I've read after it's been charged.
Yep.
So I do recommend, and I do this myself. This is why I actually have several ammo cans. I have like one big one where I just store my batteries. I have another one where I put charged batteries. So as soon as I finish charging the batteries, I just put them in the ammo can, even if they're perfectly fine. Put them in there. And I've got a third ammo can. If something, if one of the battery swells, that's the bad bin, the bad battery bin, and that one you take outside immediately, obviously.
Right.
But always be very careful with the batteries that you just finished charging.
Definitely.
The other thing is balance charging. There's been some, I don't know, I'd say some comments from role models in our community who've said that, parallel charging is totally fine, and if you do it correctly, nothing's going to happen to you. The thing is, battery charging is one of those things where it is human error, as we were just saying, most of the times that cause the accidents. And parallel charging is a method, if you don't know it, is a method by which you sort of put several batteries onto a single charger, and the charger doesn't actually know the voltage of each of the cells. So It tries to sort of average out what's going on. And if you plan it, if you do it right, it works for sure.
Right.
But if you do it wrong, your batteries are at high risk. So I really recommend, having one charger and one battery plugged into it. So it's the only way that your charger knows what battery it's charging. It knows the cell voltages, and it knows to stop when something's wrong.
Because we have chargers today that are capable of telling you those things, right? So I mean, that's the other thing. Most of the chargers today have a temp sensor on it, can tell you if your battery's getting hot. You can keep a data log on most of the chargers today. So it's an option for you to use, but really, if you're looking for efficiency, then you probably should be doing something like that to see how long you've been hitting the battery and how hard, and watching it deteriorate over time. Being able to call it when it's time to give it up, because many of the times these fires do happen is because, at least at the field, is because we pushed the battery too far. Not too long ago, about 2 weeks ago, I set a battery on fire. I mean, it was done. I mean, it swole up really quick, and then we lit it. So we finished it off. But it is. One of the things I keep trying to tell guys is buy as many batteries as you can, so you don't have to abuse them for trying to push them too long.
Absolutely. Yeah, measure the internal resistance, I guess. That's what you're referring to. When it gets too high, you should really think about disposing the pack, or just use it, for your goggles or something like that. Don't go flying with it anymore.
Dispose of a battery?
To dispose of a battery, I would take it to be recycled. But before you do that, you need to completely discharge it. Your chargers will only take them so far down in the charge. I usually use them, I have a soldering iron that you put a hook up to it. I usually let that run for like an hour or two and just let the thing just burn out completely. I just completely kill out the battery. There's no more charge in it. If you want, at that point, you could actually drill a hole through it, and it would not start puffing or releasing any energy, because there's none left anymore. Mm-hmm. And once that's done, I take it to like a recycling center. You can chuck it in the bin, I guess, but there's a lot of lithium and stuff like that. You don't really want that stuff to be turning up in your atmosphere that you're going to be breathing. So try to get it recycled.
Recycling.
Yeah, here, my garbage man just told me to put them in a little pile. He says, because I told him that I soak them in the water, in salt water for 2 weeks, and then by the time I'm done with them, they're done. I mean, the copper and all the metals and eaten up, and the bags are open, and it's just a dead battery. So he just says keep them right there, and I'll come and get them all. And there's probably about 10 over there right now.
And there we go, battery safety for the masses, and it's important. Okay, we don't want anybody's houses burning down, and you're just it's gonna happen eventually to you if you're in this sport long enough. All right, okay, we're gonna start wrapping up because Gab, I apologize, we took up a lot of your time. It's almost 2 hours on this.
Don't apologize.
Yeah,
I like talking with you guys. It's fun.
Okay, so where can we find you on the internet? We kind of already know, but you might as well mention it again.
There's 3 ways to find me on the internet right now. Is my Instagram channel. It's Gab707 _ FPV. I have a Facebook page, which is just Gab707. And I also have a YouTube page where you'll find probably my most just polished videos. It's just Gab707 as well. Oh, and I actually just recently added an air views page. I'm also on there as just Gab707. After long periods of waiting, hesitating, they convinced me finally to put my stuff on air views. So it's on there.
Yet another social media site that you have to keep track of. Isn't it terrible?
Another one. Like, damn.
Now I do a video, I have to upload it like 4 different places. It's a lot of work now. It's not just you post your video and you can go have coffee. It's you post it one place. By the time you post it the next one, there's already comments on the first place, so you got to start answering comments. And then I need to post it there now. Oh wait, I got comments here. So
it is tough, but you know what? Definitely looking forward to seeing you at the International Open along with all your Canadian buddies. You guys are always cool to hang out with. Now, I've forgotten already. Where did the 707 came from? I know where Gab came from because obviously from your first name, but where did the 707 came from? I forgot.
There's no reason to that. It's just so people can ask questions and we can talk about it.
It's the area code. I'm just gonna make up something. It's the area code that he's from.
It's not the area code. I think it was one of those things. You're trying to log in onto this chat room and it's okay. What's your name? I'm Gab. Oh, someone's already called Gab on here. I'm sorry. I'll be Gab. I don't know.
Gab number 707.
No, that's his secret super agent code name, 707. Yeah. 007 was taken, so he had to put a 7 in front. Right. 7 times better.
Oh. Some people have asked me, hey, are you a fan of planes? Like the 7, because there's, I think, the Airbus 707 or something like that. Mm-hmm. But
I'm not sure.
I'm not interested in planes at all. So
you just insulted Elvin.
Except for ones with RC in them.
Yeah. I don't mind RC planes now, but the ones you sit in, I mean, they take you from point A to point B. I mean, that's it.
Very true.
They take me from point A to point B so I can go fly somewhere else. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's true. Although with this drone racing story, I mean, I've been all around the place now, and it's taking planes in all the time. It's I should maybe respect those planes a bit more now.
Hey, they give you hopefully a long and fruitful career, but only time will tell on that.
Absolutely.
All right, Gab. Thank you so much for being on. It's always great to catch up with you, and I'm sure in 2018 we'll be having another podcast and sharing all of your exploits and achievements in 2018.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for having me on. It was good fun talking to you guys.
All right, brother.
All right. Peace out and see you soon, I guess.